Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 180 of Hotline League. It's an exciting week for us here on the show because we're joined by someone I will introduce momentarily. But first, my constant co-host, Mark Zimmerman, is here. How's it going, Mark?
It's going great. I feel great. I'm emotionally stable right now. It's a good time.
We love emotional stability here on the show. It's a fantastic thing to have. How was the week for you? How was the rest of your vacation? Because the last time we talked to you, you were on a little trip.
It was in Santa Barbara.
Nice.
It was good. Gotta say, don't get the hype. Santa Barbara is pretty whatever.
What did you do there?
Walked around, ate. There's a boat ride. Did the boat ride. I do the boat ride again. The rest of Santa Barbara, not so much. But on the other side of that mountain, where Solvang is, that little town that's like all Danish and shit, and then there's wine tasting, and there's a campground. Like
wine tasting.
That's more my spot.
Did you go to Solvang? Because I know that it's like popping off right now. I actually just read an article about how like it's actually kind of overwhelmed.
When I was there was just fucking people everywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Adult Disneyland is the way that it was described in this article, and people can look it up.
I don't know if I go that far. There's no rides. There's
like, drinking, which is, you
can drink at Disney. I drink at Disney.
All right.
I feel like if you took Main Street, I think that's what they're really saying. It's like, like when you walk into Disneyland and there's like just that street of shit everywhere. That's, I guess, what it's kind of like.
Nice. Well, I'm happy you had a good time. How many days were you there for?
Like 3. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Nice.
Left on Thursday morning.
Nice little reprieve. Okay, well.
I don't know. So I'm not done yet.
Oh.
I don't know what happened, but on Saturday night, I did a workout. I ate a bunch of gnocchi, a bunch of pasta, tried to do an ab workout. And ever since then, I've been feeling a weird pain. I feel like icy coldness, and it kind of moves around in my body where it is. But it's all in my core.
Wait, you said it moves around in your body, but it's all in your core?
What is? You have like a hernia or something.
So hernia was my first guess, but I felt around. I didn't feel any lumps.
Just the freezing cold iciness inside your.
Well, abdomen. It goes away sometimes. It's more like a bit of a pain. Sometimes it's an iciness. Starts up high, then sometimes more on the side or straight below. So if there's any doctors listening who want to diagnose me, all the bad shit.
I think it's terminal. Yeah, that's.
Well, if you have any advice as to what is going on with Mark and you're listening to the show,
there's a real doctor listening.
Yeah, please tweet at him. Anyway, shout out to Game Fuel and Alienware for sponsoring the show. But I do want to introduce our guest co-host for the evening, which is Artemis, Evil Genius' strategic coach. After their 3-0 weekend, felt like a great time to have him on. Artemis, how's it going?
Good. It's going great. This is my off day today, so had a relaxing morning with my girlfriend, and then hung out a bit in the afternoon, and then just getting back to work, grinding Pro View for this week. I'll do the quick elevator pitch. Those of you guys who don't know me, I first started in the league with Clutch Gaming back in, what was it, 2019 now? Yeah, 2019. Joined the LCS when they were in 8th place, was part of the 8th to World Miracle Run. After leaving Clutch Gaming, I helped last year at Evil Geniuses kind of build EG and get everything up and running there. And then this year transitioned into a role as strategic coach where I work with Peter Dunn, Turtle, and Mash, our assistant coach. And yeah, you guys know the rest.
Very good. Yeah, I'm hearing a slight echo as well. So I don't know if anybody has. It wouldn't be coming from me, but I don't know if anybody's audio is really loud or the mic could be picking it up or something like that. But
I'm not hearing it on my end, so there's a chance it's me, but I don't know.
It's very slight, but it's not. Yeah,
echo.
I don't know. We will.
Sounds fine for me.
Hopefully troubleshoot. I don't hear it right now, but. Maybe only when Artemis was talking. I don't know. We're gonna figure it out. Okay, so, Artemis, how has things been? Because you guys just had this 3-0 weekend. I'm sure life feels pretty swell right now.
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, we're obviously pleased at the result. I think that this was, it's our first 3-0 of the split, so it feels good to not lose a game on the weekends. But I think that the hype's a bit overblown. Like as far as how we feel in the EG camp, nobody's like super excited or ecstatic that we went 3-0. We beat FlyQuest, CLG, and Golden Guardians, so we got the expected result of all 3 games, which does feel good because we have dropped games in the past where we were expected to win. So it's finally good to see some consistency. That's what I'll say. And I've also been really pleased with our early game. I feel like we're really making good progress in scrims, and we're starting to see a lot of that on stage. And I think you can see us improving week to week, which is more than you can say for most other LCS teams. So I think that's what I'm most excited about, is we're improving, it's visible, and we're finally seeing some consistency.
Nice. Well, I'm glad. What do you think of? By the way, it's interesting because you guys are, I think, on a bit of a rise. And this past weekend, I tweeted something about how I was really excited for 100 Thieves, seeing their success. And Peter, your coaching colleague, tweeted at me and was like, "What? No faith in evil geniuses." So I don't know if you feel like EG's on the rise, and like by the time you guys hit playoffs, you're just gonna crush everybody. Like, are people missing out on 100 on EG right now and just too focused on 100 Thieves, or what do you think of all that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a bit of both. People definitely don't see how good EG is right now. I think we're definitely one of the best team in leagues right now, but it doesn't matter because we're not even halfway done the split, and there are so many strong teams in the league.
Wait, I think we are halfway
that
through
aren't
the
performing
split
right now. Like,
it's 9 weeks, right? And we just completed week 5.
It's a 9-week season, right? It's a triple round robin. We haven't finished the second round. Maybe we are past a halfway point. Either way, there's a lot of season left, right? And Team Liquid right now, they're slumping. I think we're better than Team Liquid, but Team Liquid can get a lot better. They can bring Alfari back in. They can improve. I think they're a world-class team at their peak. And same for C9. C9, I don't think they're doing very well right now. We're 2-1 against C9 this year, and I also think that they're going to improve a lot by the time playoff comes. So it doesn't really matter how good we are relative to the league, even if we are one of the best teams right now. It doesn't matter because people are going to keep improving. So we just have to keep improving ourselves. And if we keep improving at this rate, I'm super confident how we'll do in playoffs. But that's something that's too far down the line, and right now we're much more short-term oriented.
Yeah. Well, it's similar response to what Peter had said. So it sounds like you guys are both on the same page.
Yeah.
Now, I'm trying to think if there's a Mark. I don't know if you have any questions for Artemis before we kind of go over
Each of the worlds. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Guy in the chat.
before you go over anything, Mark. But if Mark doesn't, which it sounds like he doesn't, you can hear me, right, Mark?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was saying and I was getting ready to talk whenever you stopped talking.
I didn't hear the
You just kept filling. You just keep talking.
It's a podcast show, so whenever there's any silence, I panic. Anyway.
No, I was just gonna say where, because you talked about the top 3 teams, which are like what most people say is TSM, C9, 100 Thieves, excuse me, TL right now with what's going on with their roster, probably not.
Yeah.
Do you think that you're actually like in that conversation already? Or are you saying that like if the growth improves, that you think you can beat them?
No, we're definitely already there.
Okay.
Like there's kind of like a big 5 right now with like the teams you said. There's C9, TSM, TL, 100 Thieves, and EG. And I think those are the teams that like realistically have chances. I don't think anybody besides those 5 have chances throughout playoffs. And right now we can beat any of those top teams, and we can also lose to any of those top teams, which is just the nature of EG, right? But as far as how good we actually are, like I'll say it again, it doesn't matter. But yeah, I think we're one of the best teams in the league right now for sure.
Very good. Well, I'm excited to take some calls about evil geniuses because I'm sure we'll have some tonight. It's been kind of a quiet week, I think, for the LCS. We had like the biggest drama I feel like was this Perks LCS lights situation, which I mean, I don't want to belittle it. Like I did an interview with him and we talked a little bit about the situation, but it definitely is an interesting dynamic. Whatever, he like makes a tweet, deletes it, and then Greeley has to come out and sort of talk about it. And I don't really know how it got to the place that it did. I know Greeley made some tweets about it, but that was interesting. I know there's some conversation about Dardoch potentially joining Europe. I feel like people are Have we seen any news around that? I don't know, Mark, if you caught any about it, but it's like he got repped by like a European sports management agency, but I don't know if that necessarily means that like he's looking for opportunities in Europe. So I don't know if there were
I'm
any
gonna do
other
the
rumors
most
of that.
obnoxious thing in esports and say I heard a rumor, but I promised I wouldn't say anything. So
Well,
there
okay.
you go. I get to pretend I know what's happening,
I don't- I heard a rumor, but
but I can't say what it is and who told me it. So
yeah. Well, okay. So thank you for that, Mark. Really appreciate it. What else? Oh, and then I think one thing that I really appreciated was the response to the video that I did this past week, where we finally released the results of the survey wherein I had like asked. I think we had like over 4,000 replies about why it is that people who are watching less LCS or not watching LCS at all, why it is that they are feeling less interested, and people can go check it out on my YouTube channel if they haven't yet. But basically, what was interesting, I feel nervous talking about this because I know I'm just gonna like it somewhat validated my previously held opinions on that I've expressed on the show. So people are gonna think it was super biased. But Tim, I think, should be able to also talk about the fact that like he saw our process and our methodology, and we talk about it at the start of the shows or start of the video as well. But it doesn't feel like people are actually that upset. That I mean, people are sad we don't do well, but it does not feel like the biggest contributing factor to why people lose interest in the LCS. It seems like it's a lot more of like, hey, we're having a hard time finding players we want to root for, or storylines that we really like, or any number of different things. I think we had 6 or so things that were listed ahead of it on the list, so people can go check it out on the channel. But if we have any callers that want to talk about that, I think that would be really cool, because I know we'd spent a while waiting to get that out, and so I'm happy that we're able to finally start talking about it.
yeah, I was really interested in that video. I kept pushing you to like, hey, put that video out. I want to see the results, and so I have some thoughts about it too.
Okay.
So hopefully we can get a caller.
Yeah,
to
if
talk
we
about
get a
that.
caller about it, then we can talk about it. If not, maybe we'll figure out a way to talk about it, because Mark and I have not discussed it yet either. But I think that was most of it. I mean, this past weekend we had EG go 3-0, and then 100T went 3-0 as well. Yes.
Yes, correct.
The 2 3-0 teams this past weekend. I don't know
100
if there
Thieves
were...
got player of the week too. We were robbed. They keep giving it to 100 Thieves, but Danny's player of the week this week, right? Clearly.
No.
Clearly.
You guys beat CLG, Golden Guardians, and FlyQuest. The three.
Mark, what are you trying to say about CLG, FlyQuest, and Golden Guardians?
Well, one's on a 6-game loss streak, and one's on a 10-game loss streak, and the other one is the other one's 10th place. The last one's 10th place.
I didn't know that. Okay, all right, makes sense.
So
Got it.
I mean, you guys looked really impressive in all those wins, but
Thank you.
you know, a little bit tougher competition for 100 Thieves this week.
Yeah, fair enough. I guess we'll see this week, right? EG plays 100 Thieves, so that should be fun.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
Actually,
looking forward
that
to
is
that.
a fun matchup. I'm interested to see how that goes.
What happened the last time you guys played? I actually don't remember.
We're 1-2 against 100 Thieves this year so far. I think the last time we lost, I want to say. But
Yeah.
we're 1-2 against them on the year.
All right.
Mark, am I
Either way.
forgetting any other major narratives?
Not off the top of my head. I mean, we got some more production hate threads as always, but that's hardly news.
No, it's not. I actually, I'm kind of curious, Mark, what you think of that stuff. Like, is it at a point in time where you're kind of personally disregarding it because you're like, I'm saying this again or whatever, or like, is it? I don't know if you feel like it's worth talking about on the show now, because it's like it does seem to kind of repeat itself in terms of what people's frustrations are.
I mean, there's some stuff that you look at and you can just tell that they're not paying attention. Like, there was in one of the threads, and I was talking to Emily about this. She was going to point out there was like a comment that was talking about like, they need to like interview more players or something. Like, I'd love to hear Jizuke, and it was like, wait, we literally did that. Like, you just outed yourself to not actually watching. Yeah. So there's some of that stuff. I think overall production has been better. There's like the downtime between games.
Right.
And like part of that's the COVID situation, but I did spend a lot of the weekend actually like timing out everything I could, and I timed our
Yeah.
segments, I timed Phil, I timed ad reads,
Mhm.
I went to LEC, I timed all their stuff, and so I do think that there are some optimizations that can still be made regardless of the COVID situation. So I'm
Sure.
not ignoring it. I'm not like writing it off. I always think that there's improvements to be made. So, we talked about it this week about
Mm.
some things, and there'll be some changes I think this weekend that people can look forward to.
I'll give my 2 cents. For me in the past, I thought the LCS broadcast was basically unwatchable at times. It was terrible, and this year it's dramatically improved. I understand the frustration with the time between games, but from the team perspective, it's actually really, really fast. Like the stage is cleaned and sanitized. We get on stage, we sit down, and we're doing like our tech check and our mic check. And basically, as soon as their butts touch the seat, the refs are like, "Okay, guys, like let's finish our checks. Like let's go, let's go." And we feel very rushed from the time we get on stage to when the match actually starts. So yeah, it's like I understand the perspective of the viewers sitting at home, but like they are definitely trying to move things along because we are constantly being rushed on stage before a game, and like we get it. It's like it's nobody's fault. It's just the way it is. But yeah, I think they're doing a decent job, all things considered. It's not like we're just chilling on stage for 20 minutes getting bored.
Yeah. So someone in chat just have to respond. I won't say the name, but they're like, it's literally 40 to 60 minutes between games.
I
No,
mean,
I
they're
timed all
just
this out.
just wrong. Like
It's literally an
21:34.
hour between
it's
games.
literally an hour, 60 whole minutes between
Friday's
games.
games. Game 1, Game 2 in the Twitch VOD. 2 hours 32 minutes 19 seconds to 2 hours 53 minutes 53 seconds. 21:34 turnaround time. Next game 21:07, 21:34. Last
Yeah.
game 19:57. So like, and I've timed out what each of those 21 minutes were.
Yeah.
So
I
don't
saw
try
I
and
saw
play me, Twitch chat.
Yeah, I saw a really interesting tweet from Frost actually comparing the format of the breaks in LCS versus LEC, and I thought it was really interesting. I don't remember her like her exact takeaway, but it was to do with the timing of the breaks in LCS versus LEC, and how like LEC they took a break, came back, and then like they did some like segment or interview, and then that flowed directly into the next game, whereas like LCS just like that second intermission was at a different time. So I think that they could play around with that. If this is like real and people are really being turned off by this, then I think that they could experiment with other structures as far as like the segments that they do in between games and where they put their ads. But yeah, again, from my
By the
perspective,
way,
it's pretty quick.
just to pause really quickly on the conversation, I think because we started the stream kind of late, we actually don't have too many takes right now in the pleb topics and subtopics chat. And the secret is Mark sometimes pulls before we announce like going and putting takes in. So go drop some takes if you guys have some in plebs or subtopics, because we only have a handful so far tonight.
Bring Emily on. She's there in chat.
mean, Emily, if Emily wants to call in, it's good. Her and I are actually we're doing Rift reaction tomorrow with Ender, so people have a lot to talk about in the LEC. Actually, speaking of the LEC side, some interesting news was the Schalke sale. And like, I know we don't tend to talk too much about LEC stuff on the show, but I do think it's the first time where we've ever seen a number just listed publicly for the sale of this stuff. 26.5 million euro, I believe, is the price that the Schalke stuff sold for to Team BDS. So if somebody has like a way to link that into the LCS stuff.
Was the optic number was never public?
I don't think so. I mean, it was reported.
Okay.
But there's never been a time where like where like somebody just came out and was like, hey, we spent this, we just got this much money for this. Like Schalke literally said the number in their Twitter post, which I thought was very interesting. So, and what is 26.5 million euro?
It's like 1/5 of a transfer fee for a good player in football.
It's
or
change.
soccer.
I thought you were about to say the LCS.
Yeah, me too. I thought you were about to be like,
come on.
Things are so expensive. Close to 31.5 million USD. Yeah, very interesting. So, I do think that's fun. So I know we got some calls or we got some takes already going into the chat, which is exciting. But other than that, Artemis, while Mark starts pulling people, why don't I ask you, What has it been like working with Peter Dunn this year? Because I know previously you were kind of like heading up a lot of the stuff. Now I assume it's more of like a tag team thing with him perhaps managing stuff, but you also doing the strategy. Like, I think he's been getting more and more attention, I think, for some of the stuff that he's been saying over here. So what has your experience been with him?
It's been great working with Peter. This is my favorite coaching group that I've worked in my career, I'll say. So we have Peter, we have Turtle, we have myself, and we have Mash, and we have our head analyst, Naster. And the five of us kind of make up the coaching or front office group, underneath our general manager at EG. And we have a really nice working relationship among all of us. I think for myself, as you referenced, there was an adjustment period at the beginning where I was leading the team previously, and now Peter came in and rightfully wanted to take more of an active, just take more control in the direction of the team as far as day-to-day processes and also strategic direction. And it was challenging for me to grow into a new role where I felt like I was, affecting the team in a way that I could feel good about and in a way that the team felt good about. And, as we naturally work that out, Peter has a lot of different responsibilities at EG, not just with our LCS team. He also is working with our academy team. He's working with our amateur team. He's working with our coaches individually, helping them. And while he's doing these things, I am leading a lot of LCS. Peter leads probably 80-90% of our group reviews. I probably lead, I don't know the number, 75-80% of our drafts on a weekly basis, and I also lead drafts on stage. So from that perspective, I have a large bit of control of our strategic direction as far as like the strategies we'll use in scrims or the strategies we'll use on stage, and that is one of my areas of expertise, and it's a way that I feel good about the contributions I make because it's a place where I feel like we have a comparative advantage against other LCS teams. And I think that we do a great job of kind of divide and conquering and spreading different jobs and responsibilities among our staff. And we just have a really nice varied staff with a lot of different skill sets, and we work well together, and it's very easy to kind of, pick up slack when other people want to do different things. So it's been a super enjoyable year so far. Personally, I've learned a lot from Peter, not just in-game stuff, but also just out-of-game stuff. Working with him has been great. And yeah, super grateful that he's at EG.
Nice.
So don't flame drafts. Got it.
Flame drafts.
You're the drafter.
We can talk about drafts. I don't mind. I personally, I love talking about drafts. So you can flame my drafts. You can flame other teams' drafts. We can talk draft. That's always
the
fun.
worst drafts in the league.
Worst
in your eyes.
I mean, there's too many to count, right? Like,
who's drawn your ire in particular recently? Just off the top of your head, who's someone that you watch and you're like, ugh?
It's inconsistent, but there's head scratchers every week. Like, let me look at like some week 5 drafts. I mean, I think that this week there was a new patch, right? So I was totally shocked by what most teams were doing because I think that there's very few teams with an accurate read on the patch. But I'm not going to call somebody out like that. Like, if we want to talk specifically about one team, like, I'll give some criticism, but I'm not just going to blast, like, oh yeah, fucking FlyQuest, they're shit. Like, it's not what I'm here to do. So
that's punching down too. You need to punch up at one of the other teams and flame their draft.
Yeah, exactly.
FlyQuest in a tough place. They're just in free fall, and I feel like nobody's really. I don't know. I feel like nobody's even really talking about them. Like, it's interesting because like the Dig free fall, I think got a lot of attention because the Saligo Dardock stuff, but like the FlyQuest just plummet, I feel like is just, no pun intended, but flying under the radar. Like, it's just nobody's really even talking about it. So I don't know. Maybe we'll get a call about that. We'll find out. Sad situation after I think they earned so much goodwill from the community last year. So,
you ready? Should I get a caller?
Yeah, I think we're ready. So, first off, thank you to some subs while Mark is away. Where are we? For some reason, Twitch is not sorting these out anymore. So, Will Young Fox or Will Young, Ari Waddle, Gengariffith, 1 year. Thank you, Gengariffith. Love it. Oh, Ari Waddle was 3 years. Holy shit. Careless, Sobriety, Power Spike, and Clitter Punch. I will read out some more of you guys in a second.
Mark and I made the exact same face.
I came back as the first word I hear as I join the chat again.
Well, OOshawott is here. Wait, were you on the show a long time ago?
No.
Okay, your name just sounds really familiar. Maybe it was like a sub or something. Anyway, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Nice. Well, what do you want to talk about on the show?
So my take is that EG is a top 3 team, and I think they're going to make Worlds along with God, I almost forgot for a second. Team Liquid and 100 Thieves.
Team Liquid and 100 Thieves.
Ooh, so
Go to
C9
World
not making Worlds.
with Evil
Yeah.
Geniuses. TSM not
No
making
sneaky,
Worlds.
no Worlds, man.
TSM
Actually, no, wait. On my original post, I put TSM. My bad. Sorry. I'm nervous. My bad.
Oh, okay. So wait. Who is
Yeah,
it?
TSM. It's TSM, 100 Thieves, and
EG.
EG.
Okay, so
Yeah, my
Team
bad on
Liquid
that.
and C9 not making Worlds.
Correct.
That would be wild because I'm pretty sure it would be the first time ever that 2 of the big 3 don't go. Is that right, Mark? In my mind, I've somewhat like merged CLG and TL because CLG was originally in the original collection of 3.
Yeah,
and then they moved out
because
and
I
TL
think
moved up.
there would have been, I think 2016 would have been Immortals, TSM, and CLG. No, because C9
C9
made
and
it every
TSM have
year.
always gone, right? I mean,
No,
other than
TSM has missed in 2019.
Yeah, TSM
Yeah,
missed one
Clutch-
and C9 missed one, but they
Clutch
didn't
talked
miss at
about
the
it,
same
Gauntlet.
time. So
I mean, it would definitely be the first
Yeah.
time we sent like 2, I guess, like non-major orgs, right? Like 100 Thieves is relatively new, EG is relatively new.
right.
We've never sent 2 new teams, so that's
Yeah.
at least
It
the
would
first.
definitely be shocking for sure, but I genuinely think it's going to happen because I think there's no doubt that 100 Thieves is the best team right now. I don't think many people would argue that hard. So I think right now they're pretty much a shoo-in. But after that, I think there's a major drop-off, and that's where I look to TSM and EG because I think a lot of their issues are inconsistent games, and I write about EG for the Game House too, so I'm pretty biased on this topic too. So I think that's also worth throwing out. But so my thing is with EG and TSM is that I genuinely think they can beat every single team in the LCS, including 100 Thieves, in a best of 1. But where they're going to struggle is doing that in a best of 5. And also a best of 5 then rules out the losing to a team that they shouldn't. For example, Immortals has been a historic weakness for EG, especially in the spring split. They went 0-2 against them, despite them, being a better team, I think, in the spring. So that eliminates that variable. Those games that they shouldn't be losing, and sure, okay, they drop one in the best of 5, then they just clean up the next 3 or the next 2 or whatever it is. So I think that adds a lot of value to a team like E. And also the contract subbing is a huge strategic thing, being able to swap in and out and do that if Svenskeren is falling behind or not performing at his top level. Then I see that as nothing but a plus, and causing another team to spend more time prepping for someone else, I think, is beneficial.
So I'm kind of curious. Do you have any concern about C9 powering up now that they've gotten?
No.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. My reason for C9 not doing too well is that I just think they're falling off. I don't see much improvement week to week, and it's not like there's something I can look at and say, there we go, that's the C9 I know. And it just really hasn't happened yet. Sure, I think there have been better games recently, but I don't think we're going to see that MSI or spring finals, even spring finals. I think they're a bit iffy. Level C9. And this is a C9 also that didn't really make it that far at MSI, had a lot of bad games at MSI. If that happens again in playoffs, then they're screwed. And I don't know. I just don't think they have that, even though inconsistency can be good in the best of 5. I think their lows are really, really low, and their newer highs recently are, fine to beat the bottom 5
Okay.
teams. And they're fine to maybe take a game off of TL, but not recently.
Let me ask you
insane high.
one other question, which hopefully you'll have a quicker answer for. Are you concerned at all about? I'm just teasing. Are you concerned at all about TL if they get Alfari and Santorin back?
No.
Okay.
I think banking on subs right now, which Santorin is at the moment, and Alfari coming back, I guess, is technically kind of a sub as well. I think banking on that to come back for them to make the run is kind of iffy and kind of a coin flip. So I'm under the assumption Santorin specifically isn't going to come back. With Alfari coming back, I think they do get better, but I don't think it's going to be a night and day difference because a lot of the issues haven't just been in the top lane position.
Okay.
Artemis, if you guys make Worlds, whose spot are you taking? who are you stealing?
What do you mean?
Who-
Who owns the spots?
The
The
big
spots
three.
obviously belong to TL, C9, TSM
Yeah.
because they're the big three. So
Okay.
who
Got it.
who is 100 Thieves stealing one spot and then are you stealing the other? Like who's joining you from the old guard?
I mean, I really don't see this stealing spots, right? But um,
That's happy. I'm glad
I-
you don't see it that way.
it's a tough question because, like I said at the start of the hour, like there's so much season left. Like we're playing a triple round robin and we're not even finished the second round robin. We have like 4 weeks of a triple round robin left. A lot can happen in those 4 weeks.
What if
including
it
subs
does?
coming
What if
back.
nothing happens?
If nothing happens and nothing changes, then 100 Thieves and EG go to Worlds for sure. No question.
And you think
But
TSM would be the third in that situation?
I mean, right now, yes, but I would not count out C9 or TL at all. In fact, I think it's more likely that one of TL and C9 goes to Worlds than they don't go to Worlds. Yeah, I just have a lot of faith in. Specifically, I have a lot of faith in C9. I think that they have world-class players on that roster. I'm biased. I used to coach Vulcan back on Clutch, but specifically, I think C9's bot lane has the potential. Potential is the wrong word because they've been like basically world-class in the past, but C9's bot lane is really fucking good, right? I don't think they always play their wave correctly, and I don't think they're infallible by any means. But as far as how they play trades and as far as like how they understand their 2v2 matchups, I think that they're the best in league when it comes to those two things. And I'm expecting C9 to have a really strong resurgence, especially once it comes to playoffs. Like they're nowhere near the form that they had like pre MSI and like even at MSI. And like yeah, I know that like they lost to Pentanet at MSI, and like I know that it wasn't like as strong as a showing as some NA fans might have wanted, but they were also beating top teams, and we never got to see them in a best of series. We only got to see them in best of ones, and we really couldn't accurately judge how good like C9 might have been in at their peak at MSI because we didn't get to see them in a best of. And kind of with that, I think that some teams will excel in best of five and some teams will struggle in best of five. You look at a team like 100 Thieves, for example, and first of all, I do think that Reaper is a good drafter. I think that when I look at 100 Thieves drafts, they're cohesive. I can understand what he's thinking. It's easy for me to kind of break it down and say, okay, he thought this was his assumption, these were his conclusions, this is why he did what he did, boom, boom, boom. I can follow it. That's more than I can say for a lot of teams in LCS, so I respect his ability to draft. But as far as how 100 Thieves wins games, they just punish mistakes really, really well. And they're very consistent at closing out the game when they get a lead. And I don't think that is a reliable way to beat strong teams. You have to be able to play with pressure, transfer your pressure, and actually do something in the early game. And manufacture a lead for yourself, and then close out against a team who's not going to make mistakes and give you a free win. And it remains to be seen if any of the top teams can do that. Like right now in the LCS, we are just gifted game after game. Like if you look at EG's game this weekend, we were gifted I don't know, our early games in Friday and Saturday were both super easy. We got gifted plays, and then come mid-late game, we got gifted 2 free Barons. Like the first Baron, we just kill their jungler right at 20 minutes. We're like, okay, thank you for Nash. And then our Saturday game, their bot lane is hitting our bot T1 turret where we're overloaded on top side, and we're like, okay, thank you for the free Nash. So, and you see this with every team. It's not just EG. And until teams stop just gifting each other games, and until we get the best of series, we probably won't know who's good. If I had to put money on it, I would say EG. I mean, my gut tells me 100 Thieves isn't going to make it, but
Whoa!
I know it's a hot take. It's just my gut. Like I said, 100 Thieves is a good team right now. They're definitely one of the best teams in the league, undisputed. But my gut's telling me that C9 and TL are both going to make some strong pushes, and you can't count TSM either. So I think it'll be EG, C9, and either TSM or TL. I don't know.
God. Okay. Wow.
It gun to my head, right? Because like again, that's gonna be Clift and Shift, but I preface everything by saying there's so much season left. It doesn't matter how good people are right now. All that matters is how much you can improve and how quickly you can improve. But I'm confident in what EG's been doing, and I'm confident what we'll continue to do.
All right. You say it doesn't matter how good teams are right now. I bet you'd rather be 100T than FlyQuest right now. So I do think it matters to some extent how good you are.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
clearly talking about the top teams, I feel like I agree about like with how much season's left. Like C9 looks a little bit better than TL. TL hasn't beaten any of the. I think they beat EG in the most recent round robin. I think it
C9?
might have been. No, you guys. I think the last time.
Wait, sorry, what did you? I misunderstood you.
TL hasn't beaten another top team other than I think you guys in the most recent round robin, but that's their only win against these other teams.
Okay, they
Oh,
definitely
wow.
beat us. I'm not sure about the rest of their games.
Yeah, so
Well, they beat
TL
CLG.
is just
Sorry, I'm kidding. Continue.
the point is TL is the furthest I think for me on this like ranking of where they are. I mean, it is the one with the most pieces to return because C9 is back at like quote unquote full strength right now.
Right.
TL is missing a lot of stuff, so they do have the most like runway to ramp up with, but they are also the furthest behind right now. EG actually looks better than them, and also just in terms of gameplay, TL drafts sometimes have been really fucking weird, like the protect the nothing comp and
This therapy and Lulu Leeson.
yeah, with the
Yeah.
Varus poke, like they've had some weird ones that I just think like the draft kind of gets away from them. So they look like they're the furthest. C9, I was feeling so good about them this weekend until the TSM game, and like maybe I'm just an apologist, but that's one of those games where I look at that and I'm like, Vulcan trolled that shit so hard that it just became almost unwinnable, even though I thought they had a better draft.
I mean, just to interject before you finish your point, like that game should be over in 17 minutes. Are you kidding me? Like TSM should smash that game. So they should smash that game, and it took them 40 minutes to close. So like when I watch that game, I don't see like C9 struggling. I see TSM struggling to win a game that they should win in 17 minutes.
Yeah, so I love this game. I've talked about this game way too much already on the dive, and I'm going to keep talking about it because I love this game because I thought it was really interesting for that reason. Because like C9 just said fuck you and stacked literally every objective for the next 15 minutes. They sacked third Drake, fourth Drake.
Yeah.
They kind of lost the fight, which is where they lost their first Baron. Then they sacked second Dragon, and they didn't fight until 30 minutes at Elder.
Yeah.
And I feel like TSM had like this,
It was Cloud Soul too, right?
Yeah, so they didn't give a shit. Yeah. So like it was this game where I feel like TSM was like they're gonna face check us, we're gonna throw Kalista at them with Nautilus, and then like they just never did, and they only defended inhibs.
Exactly, and that's what I mean. Like teams are so used to getting gifted free wins, and C9 wasn't giving TSM a free win. Like TSM had to actually like retake vision correctly. They had to like pressure correctly, and they had to play a forcing line that would cause C9 to do something because C9 was happily just going to trade and cross map until TSM played a forcing line, and they didn't actually play that line until 40 minutes in the game when they could have done it at way earlier. An LPL team just blows that game open and it's over before it even begins. But yeah, I think it's always fun to have those sort of conversations and think like theoretically like what it means even though one team lost. It's for me it's really about the quality of the win more so than the result.
Here's one more question I'll ask you about that game because I got into a debate about it on the dive. The Victor last pick into the Azir.
God.
It felt weird. Like it's obviously
I mean,
the match.
It's just Pee-wee against Jensen. Like, what do you? No, not Jensen. Just Pee-wee in general.
Yeah, against Perks, but
yeah, against Perks. But
it felt weird given that like the rest of their comp is dive, and then you pick like a scaling mage that because it's Viego Volley, I think it was, and then Nautilus Kaisa, and it's like wait, you guys all want to go in.
Well, I mean,
and then
C9 4-5 Trundle Azir, which made sense with their Philios Thresh, and when. I mean, personally, like when I see Philios Thresh Trundle Azir, I don't want to pick a diving champion. So PoE is probably looking at the enemy team draft as well as his own like champions, and you don't want to dive against Azir Philios Thresh Trundle, right? It sounds absolutely impossible. And PoE is just gonna play mage. He's a mage player. If you blind pick a mage against PoE, he's gonna pick a mage. He's not gonna play Echo. So I thought it was very expected. It's a bit surprising that Perks blinded Azir on 4-5, but with their top side and with their 1-2-3, I think it makes sense. And we've been seeing a bit more of Azir globally too.
It's a takeaway too because it would be better for their team comp TSM's team comp too. Okay, I was curious because I threw out like Echo. I threw out like maybe just fucking ignore the Trundle.
It's not
like
Jizuke, man. You think PoE is picking Echo in LCS?
No, I'm not. Like, I'm not saying he should. But I'm saying like
okay.
if this was like another team around the world, like do they just take the Victor there, or do they actually just try and force the dive? No, I think.
No, I mean there's better theoretical picks for sure, but you have to always keep in mind the context of the roster.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
This
was a fun conversation.
Now that you guys have had the back and forth on
The
that,
nerd
which I think
out.
was great. I will say. Oh, actually, I guess Mark, we grilled Artemis a lot on this, but what do you think is likely? Is EG going? Are you trying to politely derail it so you don't have to vote against them?
What were we talking about? What was the call? I don't even remember what the call was.
The call was EG.
It's something of a draft, right?
Going.
Yeah, I think so.
100T TSM.
So, gun to my head right now, 100 Thieves, C9, TSM.
Cringe, man. Super cringe.
Super cringe.
That's not
I mean,
living evil.
Like, here's my problem, Artemis. You're saying, like, you don't think 100T is going to go, which tells me...
But that's totally emotional, right? I provided zero logic or rationale. I just said my
Yes.
gut
Right.
was telling me they wouldn't
That's
go.
what the show's about.
So,
I'm
absolutely.
glad. But I actually, like, whether it is the top three or the big three are bad this split, or whether it is that, you know, EG and 100T are rising up or whatever, it feels like there's so much competition right now for those final three spots. And I feel like it's really difficult to predict. And so that's why it's, like, hard for me to want to throw EG into the mess, because, like, in this chaos, I just am more like if you told me 100T doesn't even go to Worlds, like, I tweeted and said that I think it would be really exciting if they, like, won the split or something like that, right? But, like, is if you told me that the three teams that go to Worlds this year are TSM, C9, and TL, I would believe you, because it just feels like it feels like they have so much experience, and, like, they are most likely to survive the chaos inside. And we have, like, TL playing with ankle weights on right now, and I don't know if they'll get those off by the time that playoffs come. But, like, it's just a really, you know, I'm a little disappointed, and perhaps I am as at fault as anybody is on this, but, like, the narrative right now should be like, holy shit, we've got 4 weeks left. Who's actually going to be the best teams going into playoffs?
Yeah.
And I know we keep saying, like, oh, there's so much season. There's so much season. There's a lot of games, but there's only 4 weeks. And so I think we are coming down to the wire. You know, maybe after this week, maybe after this week, we're down to the final 3, and then that's when people will start to lose it. But, like, I have no idea who's going to Worlds. But 100T looks pretty good, so I'm surprised that they're your emotional, I don't think they're going to go thing.
Yeah, they definitely had a strong start, and they're definitely consistently winning games, and they're beating everybody, including top teams. It's not like they're only beating bottom teams either. Yeah, and I mean, we'll see, right? Like you said, we really don't know right now who's going to go to Worlds. There's too much season to be played and too much time to improve.
Well, it's fun to start talking about it now, because you guys
Agreed.
have not so long to figure it out. Okay, OOshawott, thanks for the call. I know we ran it all over the place, but
No, you're good. You're good.
is there anything you want to shout out before we take a quick break?
Check out thegamehouse.com, shameless plug, and check out my EG articles. They're pretty all right, and sometimes I get an interview with the players, so
Are you
not bad.
There's is it Gamehouse that has, like, dedicated people to each
For each team, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't know if it was you that followed me recently on Twitter or somebody did, and they were, like, dedicated to covering, maybe it was EG or 100T or something like that. But I thought that was kind of a cool model that they're doing over there. So
Yeah, it's nice because it gives you the ability to just focus in on one team and you know, and still enjoy the entirety of the LCS, but not have to worry about, you know, jumping all over and kind of focus in, listen to all the interviews on one thing, all the press, and it's nice. I like it.
Well, it follows kind of like the traditional sports media side of, like,
for sure,
you know,
for sure.
somebody goes and follow. They're just, all they do is they cover the Angels, you know, or the Dodgers or something. So anyway, thanks so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
All right, you have a good one, man.
See you. All right, Alienware is our sponsor. Thank you so much to Alienware for sponsoring the show. They actually right now have something called Black Friday in July happening. If you go over to alienware.com/Travis, I think they haven't updated the banner at the top yet, but you can still click over to the Alienware side of stuff. There's a link in the description, and you can check out their systems. But they've got sales going on all the time through this period, which I believe lasts until, I want to say it's a couple weeks. I should know this, but I don't have it right in front of me. But either way, it's going to be for a while. So if you head on over, you'll be able to see all their Black Friday in July sales. And, like, normally, I think people, it's kind of cool that they do this, because I think a lot of folks kind of think to themselves, like, oh, you know, do I want to do anything in July? If I, like, maybe I need to wait until the holidays or something like that. But no, actually a great time to go over there, check out some of the stuff that they've got going for the deals that are happening right now for Black Friday in July. And I'm sure if you follow their social channels, as well. That'll be another great way to find deals and kind of track them. But my suggestion is to just keep an eye out on their page, because they have these kind of like limited time deals going. So right now, as I speak, they have, for instance, I'm pulling it up right now, an Alienware M15 R6 gaming laptop marked down, and that's going for just a specific period of time, and then they will wipe that out. In fact, right now, an Alienware Aurora R10 at 93% claimed right now. You can save $370 on that. Brings $1869 down to $14.99. So really cool to see that they're doing this. M17R3, all sorts of stuff on sale on their site as part of the Black Friday and July deals. And I know that they're refreshing that page frequently. So anyway, shout out to Alienware so much for sponsoring the show. Really appreciate it. And we love them as our sponsor. They've done so much for us throughout the years. Anywho, Mark, you want to go grab the next caller? Off he goes. He didn't even say anything. He was muted. I think he didn't realize it. Okay. Where were we? TSM Carbonate. Thank you for the Prime. Big Angry Hobo. Thank you for the resub. I am Justin T for the resub. 1 year. Thank you so much. I am Justin T. Zamelkai, I believe is the way you say it. Nimad, and so many things. Mark has just lost his camera, but that's okay, because Karsa Fanboy is here. Karsa Fanboy, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from New York, New York.
New York, New York. I haven't been to New York in so long. I miss it. Welcome back to the show. I know you've called in previously. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So I was actually waiting for your video to come out on the LCS, and it was really interesting. And let me just get back to my take. I saw that one of the biggest complaints was that there aren't enough likable or interesting players. And I think a lot of people attribute this to the broadcasts and the teams not pushing your players into the spotlight, but I think I heavily disagree with that, because I think the broadcast especially has been trying to highlight them a lot. And I actually think that the biggest problem right now with like fans and getting invested in these players is that they're just not interacting with the community to the level that players like Double Lift, Sneaky, and Meteos, all those greats were. And when we don't have that, it's hard to build a fan base. There's very few players that can just build a fan base off being good. And like Bjergsen was an example of one, but it's very rare. It shouldn't be the expectation. The expectation should be that you are interacting with the community, and through that you can build a fan base. But it doesn't seem many of the newer players are doing that, and I just like to ask this as like a question. What was the last new player that came into the league that you think really was able to build a fan base? Native NA.
Probably Demonte, I guess, first one comes to mind. He's not in the
Yeah.
league anymore. I'm not sure if that counts.
Licorice had kind of started to when he was on C9 and was like making some effort to do it. I don't know which one of those players arrived first, because Demonte's been around for a while now, but and I just feel like things went awry for Licorice in his final year at C9, or at least when yeah, I don't know. People in the chat are talking. Oh yeah, Spica. Spica is actually probably the best example of that, because he's doing it right now. If you're talking about native North America, I actually think Spica is one of the few players that does a great job of like thinking about this stuff. I actually have an interview with him coming out this week, but he does a really good job of tweeting things, putting memes out there, kind of like trash talking folks. He made the video, for those that don't know, that TSM Legends video where it's like a parody of why they're like benching him or whatever, and it shows, you know, him like choking Bjergsen and all that stuff. That was his idea to do that. And so he thinks very frequently, I think, about ways to do fun things and build a brand, and I'm really happy that he's doing that stuff. But it is like, he is the exception to the rule. There are not very many players that are doing that. My suspicion is that the league is in a place now where like we optimize so much for performance, right? Like if you don't do very well for very long, you end up on a different team or you end up in academy or something like that. And I get the feeling that players just feel like, why should they go do that when they could just be like, I'm not going to fucking worry about the community. I'm not going to worry about brand building. I just need to look good on this team because I'm getting paid $500,000 a year and I don't want to lose that money. So, Mark, you're pointing.
Take in the other direction a little bit. So I think, Spica is a good example. I think TSM's doc, I'll admit, I haven't watched this, but someone else was telling me this recently, that they have actually done a good job of airing like conflict and tension within the team and like real conversations, which we were talking previously about them shying away from. So I want to give a shout out to TSM Legends. I'm actually going to start watching it for that reason. Tomorrow I'm going to grind an MMO and watch their doc or their TSM Legends. But so Spica, like you said, doing a good job. I feel like a lot of the younger players, some of them do meme and tweet a fair amount. Like, you talk about Spica, but also I feel like Insanity has done it. Revenge is doing it.
Revenge is actually trying, yeah.
I feel like there are a couple, and I just think the community doesn't care about them because they're not winning or on a top team or on a popular team. So I feel like for some of the younger players, it's not really their fault. I think the scene is just a little different than the past. Like if any of these guys streamed, I don't think the community would really give a fuck. I actually don't know how much Insanity streams, but I bet even if he did stream a lot of people wouldn't really care. People are saying Tactical does a good job. Tactical does do a good job memeing and stuff too. So I feel like there are, and I think he's seen some return on investment, I guess you would call it. But I'm going to throw some shade at some of the older players. I feel like the ones who didn't retire have largely just kind of stopped showing their personality. I feel like, for example, I'm not trying to like throw shade, but I'll just mention a couple. Like Afro, I hardly ever see anymore in content and stuff. Whereas he was like, a huge, like, he was huge back in the day. And Turtle, I checked his Twitter today. He hasn't tweeted in 2021. He has 400,000 followers. Hasn't tweeted in 2021.
Yeah, Afro hasn't had like he's retweeted people, but he hasn't tweeted himself since May 4th, unless
I know that Afro is really active on he's active on YouTube. That's what I'll say.
Afro is?
He releases like 3 or 4 videos a week, I think.
That's good.
So, yeah,
that's good. How much is he streaming?
I gotta assume those are all stream highlights.
They're stream highlight videos. I think he streams pretty consistently. I think I follow him on Twitch. I see him on my follow channels tab pretty consistently.
Afro replies to some people, but
Afro's better. There's layers. I'm not trying to throw shade at Afro. I just mean like people. I feel like the old guard, a lot of the most popular ones, a lot of them retired. I think a lot of people pulled back from the community for good reasons about like Reddit just not being the place where like you used to have AMAs and pros would chat and talk and like no one goes on Reddit. But I'm not going to criticize any pro for that. Just willingly stepping on a landmine. So I feel like a lot of the pullback is understandable. But these are some of the biggest personalities and people in the scene who are not necessarily super active on socials or whatever it is.
I'm thinking go ahead, Travis.
I was just going to say, Wild Turtle has 500K followers on Twitch, and I feel like he used to stream a lot. Am I crazy for thinking that? I feel like he used to stream a lot, and it looks like he hasn't streamed in forever. When I pull up recent clips from him, it's like 2 years ago. Seems to be when the last time I'm seeing any like clips from him. And maybe he had to do some like purge for DMCA stuff or something like that. But like, I don't know. I mean, he has like 500,000 followers on Twitch, and like it doesn't seem like he's really streaming at all. So
I just think there's a negative feedback loop for engaging with the community when you're not on a good team. So like for Turtle, like I totally understand why he's not like engaging with the community, because he's on CLG and CLG's not good. And at least right now, right? And it must not be fun to be in his position. And he's probably fatigued as well. He's been doing this for so many years. Like this stuff is additive. And the longer you're exposed to negativity on social media, the less you want to be involved in it. And I think that for the younger players, it's totally different, where it's less about fatigue and it's more about like, if you don't win, you don't eat. To put it frankly, like these guys are not playing like. They're playing to be employed and to have food on the table right now. and they really can't afford to be focusing on building their brand, because if they lose, like, they're just not going to play anymore, and then it doesn't matter if they've managed to have like a 500 or viewer stream. Like, that's great, that's like a lot of progress. You can build that in a year, but is that going to carry you very far? Probably not. So I think that they do have their priorities in order, and I respect them for focusing on their play, because again, if you don't win, you don't eat. And I think the conversation should really be directed at like who benefits, like, outside of the players, like from like the brand building of players, and like where does that onus lie, right? Like, I think that organizations benefit from it too. You can see like TSM does a great job of leveraging its players, because they themselves like benefit from having personalities on their team through content, social media, being able to leverage that and sell sponsorships. It's similar with the league itself, right? With LCS, like the LCS is able to leverage player personalities into viewership, into numbers, into engagement, and then again sell that to sponsors. So I do think that it's not fair to put all the blame on players, because they're playing for their livelihoods. And like same for academy players. Like, these guys, if they don't like win right now, if they don't prove they're good right now, like, they will just be kicked to the curb with no safety, with nothing to fall back on for a lot of these guys. Like, so many of these guys came straight from high school, didn't go to college. Some of them didn't finish high school. And I think it's really unfair to expect them to be like trying to be the very best at something, which is like, admirable in itself. But now to go and like expect them to try and build their social media presence and all this other stuff, like when they already have all these obligations from trying to be the best, like, I don't see it. There's not enough hours in the day. So
Well,
I understand the frustration with the older players though, because it's less for them about if they don't win, they can still eat, right? They have amassed quite a bit of safety.
I was talking. I mean, I agree with you, and that Yusuke in chat says individual players aren't given enough incentives to create content. Before, streaming was a much more significant revenue source, relatively, while it's much lower now with increased salaries. And that's exactly the case. I actually had this conversation with Peter recently, because or Doublelift, because I was talking to him about like how it feels bad, because obviously my job is to try to like pull personality from these players and like help create content around them and interviews and like tell the story and all that stuff. And that job used to be way easier, because it used to feel like the players wanted to take advantage of the interview as a way to like be funny and charming and like really help build fandom. And it made me think about like when Doublelift started, like the way you made money as a pro was streaming and boosting, by the way, but nobody ever really talks about that. But
we call it making guides, Travis. How dare you?
Making guides on other people's accounts. Anyway, and so you were able to like, do you guys remember when Bjerg used to stream to like, I don't know, 15K or something like that, and people would do the math and realize he's making probably more money streaming than from his salary, because salaries back then were way lower. There used to be a lot of financial incentives to build a following, and now the financial incentives are inversed. The financial incentives are get on a better team so that you can get that $1 million contract. Your agent can sign you that way. And I've talked to Mark about this, and I might have even made this mention on the show before, but like I frequently think about Smash Bros, and I think about what would happen if the LCS imploded, and I actually think a lot of the players would become way more popular, because what they would need to do is build brands for themselves and stream and like get fans to care about them the way that scene has, because that would become the way that they build their livelihood, versus, and they'd have far more time to do it, by the way, because it'd probably be a lot of like tournaments here and there rather than 3 days a week you're playing in the league. And it's just something to think about. I'm not saying we should implode the LCS and go to like a tournament model where there's a couple tournaments a month or every couple months, but it is sad, I think, to see that people care a lot less about the players now, and it's because those players care a lot more about winning now.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll throw in there is that I do feel like, and it's not even really the broadcast's fault necessarily with how things were in COVID, but like I think that it was harder to get player narratives out there, because previously, after a game, a player would like walk into the features room and basically get interviewed, and that could be used for the next day, and you could hear players reflect on the game, have funny things, whatever it is, you would get that. And then when we all went remote, like a lot of that died, and I think we're doing a good job bringing that back. I think Emily has been great about pushing for player stuff. Her lightning round, which she refuses to call lightning rand, where she asked player stuff, which
Wait, now I'm
Impact
gonna call it
did,
Lightning
like,
Rand.
what's that?
Yeah, I saw
Lightning
impacts.
Rand.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for throwing that out there.
yeah.
I'm just a little social pressure
Yeah.
to call it lightning rant. But yeah, she had a great thing where she sits down with the players. She asks non-league specific questions, and it gets cut up and made interesting, so you can connect with these people beyond like, did you win or lose today? And I think that plus more features, plus getting players on the desk, like I think all these things are going to help build these players' personalities because, like we're saying, there's less incentive for them to do it themselves.
Agreed.
Why
I
is
think that
replay
compared to
files
last
going
year,
on hiatus, Mark?
Ooh, I mean, they can only film so many, right? They probably
Assume
this
it's
is all they have. I
they're
would
doing
assume.
something else. There's
Yeah.
something else that
Kobe
I forget what it's
has a
called.
show that they're doing it there instead.
Yeah, I think
so
replay
I don't want to
files.
shit on it because I live with the man. So, but I liked replay files a lot because I think it did a great job of building the player personalities. Whereas like the media next level, I think is the name of it. Like I'm disappointed that there's a lack of players on that show, and then there's not players ever on the Friday show. So I was a little bummed when I was like, oh, that's the one that's going on hiatus. But happy for Kobe.
Yeah, I think replay files is a huge success, and obviously that people see that. I think it's more about like building time to create those because they are like lane by lane is done live. Replay file or next level you can shoot any day of the week. It's just like a chopped up podcast with better production values in a lot of ways. Whereas replay files is like, all right, let's go find out all that old footage, cut it up together, and tell a real story. You know?
Yeah. I could talk about this for a long time, but I will try not to. But I think all these things are good. We do a couple things here and there. Like replay files is a thing. I'm happy you guys have the players coming on the desk. I actually think that's really valuable. It used to be a thing. I don't know why it stopped, but like now it's great that you guys are doing that. Feels a lot better than whenever it's like Ovely or Latigris or any of the other guys standing with a mic next to somebody. But like I really firmly believe that we will need large philosophical changes from Riot and the players and the teams and the media, everybody, in terms of like riding the ship, in terms of making fans want to stick around, care about the stuff that is happening, et cetera, et cetera. And I worry that like we're not getting enough of that yet. So I'm hopeful that the things that we have seen for summer continue to build and be a thing, and more people realize that this is incredibly important. So
yeah, me too. I think it's like Mark said. I think it's been a lot better this year. All the additions have been great. I know that there's one bit of context. It's actually challenging to get pro players to film these things like replay files or like next level or whatever. Just because like during normal like 9 to 5 hours, like they already have obligations. Either we're scrimming or we're on a game day, right? So for Riot, like they probably can't have like their whole production crew and stuff like filming at like 8 p.m. or like 7 p.m. like when we finish work. So you have to miss scrims to like do something like that. And like we talked about incentives enough, but the incentive doesn't line up to miss practice or to really make any sacrifice to be involved in something like this. And I think that's a structural problem with no easy solution, and it just kind of sucks.
Yeah. I would say the incentive is making sure that league continues so that they have games to play in. But that is one of those like
so forward thinking.
That's one of those like
right?
you have to think really long term.
Yeah.
And it's difficult. Like people. I'll probably get flamed for saying this, but I actually think there's a world here where the LCS should go back to 2 days a week, and 1 day should be content day. I know you laugh, right? Because it just is like it's never going to happen. But like I just even in a world where like we've got great teams that are doing fantastic, if nobody cares about those teams or the players that are doing fantastic, it's kind of a moot point, right? Like,
yeah.
And that's my concern is like I worry we're headed to a path where like we're optimizing so much for competitive success. And yet the reality is that fans want that, but they want to care about the players and the storylines and all the teams more than they want the competitive success. And optimizing for this thing at the cost of all the other things, I think is dangerous. So I don't know, but I get that it's controversial. So Okay, caller. What do you think of? Wait, they
No,
left.
they left. They left like 10 minutes ago, dude. The caller was like, God, I bored myself with this topic. I'm leaving.
Yeah, he's like, I'm really regretting that one.
Well, I'll do their shout outs for them. Thanks so much to Alienware Game Fuel. And by the way, shout out to Travis and Mark, because you guys are just killing it. You know, I love the show. It's great to call in. And Artemis, congrats on the 3-0 weekend. And I'll catch you next time. Cool. Okay, thanks for the caller. All right. All right. So we are off to grab the next caller. So many things. Thank you for the 37 months. All the dog. Thank you for the prime. Lit drummer boy, thank you for the 11 months. Plutonic poltergeist, thank you for the 2 gifted subs. J03275 for the prime. Seth is here. Seth, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Portland, Oregon.
Portland, Oregon. How was the heat? Did you survive the heat wave? How bad was it?
Oh, we don't have AC. I was in here sweating, bro.
Oh.
Like it was like 112, 114.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like the stories I was hearing about it. That town in
That's
Canada
dangerous
that, like,
if you have
had
no AC.
crazy records.
Brutal.
And yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, Seth, what do you want to talk about on the show?
My take, which I don't even think is particularly hot, is that Spica is MVP for the league, and he's definitely like one of the only people on TSM that's actually playing well. It feels like it's like 1v9 most of the games. Like Hooney's super coin flip up top. Like sometimes he does really well, sometimes he does really bad. And I don't even want to talk about Lost and Sword Art down there. It feels kind of like a little bit of a disaster.
What
And
about
PoE
yeah?
seems like maybe 3 or 4 in the league, maybe for mid laners. Like he's not even competing with the top 2 other mid laners like Jensen and Perks.
Well, I'm excited about this call because normally, at least in spring, the sort of general consensus on TSM was like, hey, none of their players are going to be, you know, stand out top 1 or top 2, but their strength comes from what they do as a team. You're suggesting Spica is the best player in the league, or at least the MVP. And I want to throw it over to Mark before we get to Artemis because he's got a grin. I feel like you have.
Well, I just, I didn't know what the reasons would be when I saw Spica should be the MVP of the league. And so, like, I think I'm pulling a pro TSM take. And realistically, he just shit on TSM harder than I think I have in years. Like, he just was like, literally every player's dog shit, but Spica still somehow gets them wins, except for PoE. He might be the 4th best.
Jizuke in the chat says, I love this show.
So, like,
Yeah.
I don't know how much I can agree with all that. I mean, like, Lost and Sword Art actually had a good weekend this week. They won a bunch of 2v2s in the bot lane. Yeah, I thought they were decent.
Mark, is it fair to say Spica's would you say Spica's the only consistent player on that team? Because it sounds like our caller thinks a lot of them are not able to perform at the top frequently.
I'd say he's probably the most consistent, him or PoE. I think that's pretty easy. I, off the top of my head, can't remember the last time I watched Spica do something, and I was just like, bro, what the fuck? Whereas that's usually not that hard to think of an instance. Like Lost, who had a great weekend. And I'm not shading. I just remember, like, in the second game, like, they were playing weak side, and he got dove and killed when Sword Art was roaming. And it's like, I struggle to think of moments like that. It's not even that bad, but I don't know what the last, like, Spica moment was. So I feel like generally I agree with the caller, but I just, it's tough when I think Closer's playing better, I guess is what I'd say. It's like, I can agree with everything the caller said, except the fact that, like, I would probably right now, if I had to do my all-pro voting, put Closer ahead of him. And that just makes it hard to be the MVP.
It's actually wild. I feel like last split we had a lot of MVP candidates, and this time it's hard to think of too many players. Well, maybe I'm wrong. Feel free to correct me, Mark and Artemis, if I'm wrong here. But it feels like there hasn't been too many players that are just having, like, incredible standout performance and dominating the league.
I think Abba has been consistent for sure. I wouldn't call him dominant, but he's definitely consistent. And, like, the 100 Thieves is just a good roster. They have it's a good team, right? So Closer definitely benefits from having a strong team around him. And TSM is strong too, but I think that it's just important to take that context in when you're talking about junglers, because so much of jungling right now is communication and planning, and how your team is going to play around waves, and how you as the jungler are there to support your laners on the right wave at the right time, and like how you work with your mid laner to pressure early game and like attack side waves, right? So it's, you know, jungling now it's a lot different than it used to be. Like arguably it's easier than ever. Like we've seen a lot of successful role swaps to jungle, and I think that like Whippo has been pretty vocal that for him coming from top lane to jungle has been pretty easy because he understands like the needs of laners, and he's able to kind of put that into his mental calculus as he's doing his pathing. And with a strong understanding of lanes and early game, I think that he's able to jungle pretty easily. And right now he's definitely looking like top 3, top 4 you know, junglers in LEC, right? So at least as far as like his performance on any given weekend. So I think it's challenging for me to rate junglers, and I don't want to. Yeah, like it's a Jose Mourinho tactic. I prefer to just not speak. If I speak, I'm in trouble. So
That's what I do. So here's so for the closer thing, people say like, oh, well, closer's on the better team, yada yada. I mean, like I think that's true. He is on the better team. Is he's like jungle in particular is probably the most like, how's your team doing role in the game.
But it's so hard to see too, because it could be how's your team doing it, but also you could be 1v9ing. But like, how can we know from the outside?
Yeah.
Like they could be calling the waves for their laners, or the laner could be calling the wave for the jungle.
And especially for someone like Spica, where it's like, I would have to check quickly, but I bet he has the most Volibear games in the LCS right now, which is like, you're not going to be popping off like 1v9ing on Volibear, whereas like closer's playing Diana probably half his games if I had to guess right now, and like murdering people because they're snowballing and they're just playing a more aggressive style than TSM, who's got Mundo in the top lane. You know, like even the game that he's playing Xin Zhao, like his laners are not necessarily aggressive. That game, it was Azir, Mundo, Ezreal. Like, what the fuck are you doing as Xin Zhao in that game other than trying to control the game until you outscale? You know, like realistically, he's playing a very different role, and I know that's a cop-out answer, a little bit, but his team's meta is just so different, I think, than some other people's.
All right. So it sounds like neither of you think Spica MVP.
I think it's unlikely he wins the MVP vote. That's what I will say.
And is any of the rest of the shitting on TSM stuff that Seth came through with, any of that true? Is Huni just coin flipping?
I'm super biased when it comes to Huni because I've coached him across 2 teams and I know what he contributes to the game. So I'm like a big Huni apologist. Like I remember when TSM signed Huni, the community was just losing their fucking minds, and it was so frustrating.
Real quick.
Yeah, and now they're like, oh, I think Huni might be the best top in the league. It's like, well, what did you say 3 months ago, right? So, yeah, I think Huni's an exceptional player. I think he makes mistakes, as everybody does, but he's got a lot of value to his team that people, frankly, just don't see because they don't hear his comms and they don't really see what he brings to the game as far as planning. Like Huni, with an advantage, Huni will make plans and win the game from start to finish, and he will communicate them and execute them as good as anybody. So I think that Huni is a great player. For sure.
Seth, are you a TSM fan?
I am a TSM fan. Everything that I'm saying is out of frustration. I love Huni. I think he's a close second behind Fudge in a no Alfari world, and I just hate seeing this stuff happen. I'm like, I don't know. It just sucks seeing Lost be up in that situation in that dive. His lane was up like what 3-0. And he just couldn't like walk around the tower to avoid the Nautilus Q, so he gets dove while his team's like securing Rift or whatever. Just frustrating to see.
Well, unfortunately I triggered it a little too early, but I really like this call because I love the idea that this was a pro TSM call, and then you just used it to promote.
Man, hyping up a TSM player.
Yes,
it's on his team.
So I'm rewarding you the Game Feel Victory caller of the night. Twitch chat earlier was like, what? But I think I love it when we get a call like this. Oh, it's playing forever now. Just play once, Game Field Victory caller logo. There we go. Okay. So thank you so much, Seth. Seth, hit me up on Discord. Just shoot me a message, and I will tell you how to get access to your free Mountain Dew Game Fuel. But thank you for the call, Seth. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to our next caller?
Of course, shout out Mountain Dew Game Fuel and Alienware for letting my boy Travis do what he does. And shout out the boys in the Discord, and shout out Countdown Cannabis.
Thanks so much for the call. All right.
I'm a little sus about that last shout out. What is it? What did he just say?
People all have interesting ways of interesting things they shout out. Thank you, Jiao Wai, for the Prime, J-Dubs, Chief Xandopus,
Countdown Cannabis. Oh, okay.
Dark
I thought it was
Alley
Countdown
HT.
Candice.
EPH. Yeah, I thought it was Candace as well. It's Kyler. I thought it was going to be one of those Candace tricks. It's Kyler. Thank you for the 31 months. JNT is here. JNT, where are you calling from?
San Antonio, Texas.
San Antonio, Texas. Welcome back to the show. What do you want to talk about?
Golden Guardians.
Oh,
basic.
Okay.
Sweet.
Yeah, I think as it stands right now, and obviously Artemis said, a lot can still change, and 4 weeks left in the season, but I think on the track that we're following right now, Golden Guardians will make playoffs as the 8th seed.
Okay.
And overtake CLG and FlyQuest based on the recent form. And I think, with the acquisition of Solo and Chime, well, I think Solo is a much bigger acquisition than Chime. I think the other biggest thing for that team has been Blaze Olive's improvements and his consistency and, his carrying, because I think he's actually done a lot of carrying for the Golden Guardians so far this split. And I think, while they might not necessarily be like a strong team going into playoffs and could easily get 0-3'd right at the start, I think they're moving in the right direction, and I think it's a good thing.
I mean, one of my concerns for them is next week is the final week of the second round robin, I believe.
Yep.
And this is looking like a 0-3 week for Golden Guardians because they're facing 100 Thieves, TSM, and TL. I mean, maybe they can upset TL.
Didn't they just beat TSM? Am I crazy?
I think that
Golden Guardians
was
just beat TSM last week, right?
Crazy.
Yeah.
Really?
Are you
that
crazy?
Am I crazy?
Didn't they beat? I think they beat Cloud9, right?
What am I thinking?
They lost to Cloud9. They beat Cloud9 like in the first
that
round.
was big,
robin.
big beat TSM. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am crazy.
But anyway, so like the tough thing for them is like this is so already, after this we have the full round robin. But if you just want to look at like how much they can edge each other out, like Golden Guardians probably 0-3 this weekend, whereas CLG and FlyQuest play each other. So one of them will at least get one win. I guess that's where we're at now. And then CLG plays Dig. Like there's FlyQuest plays Immortals. There's a lot of opportunities this weekend for those teams to pick up some wins. So you could kind of look at the past 2 weeks for Golden Guardians and say like, okay, well they probably played some easier teams, whereas FlyQuest and CLG now are going to play some easier teams, and like you have to really hope that they're going to like pick stuff up. Mark, you disagree?
They are the easier teams.
True.
I feel like I don't think Golden Guardians are suddenly like these world beaters who are going to be taking games off.
That's my point. They're going to go 0-3 this weekend.
They don't need to beat those teams.
They don't need to. So for context, CLG and FlyQuest are tied for 8th with 9 wins, and Golden Guardians is 10th with 8 wins.
That is my point.
Right.
My point is that they like everybody plays another round robin, but this weekend, CLG and FlyQuest have.
The season doesn't end this weekend, Travis.
I know. I am saying okay.
Let him finish. Let's get it out.
I'm saying if you have a whole nother round robin, there's a good chance that Golden Guardians will be entering that round robin with a bigger gap between them and FlyQuest and CLG than they have right now. So
2 games back, 3 games back, we can say. Sure.
Right, and so I think my concern for Golden Guardians is they have to really push hard in that final round robin. It is not necessarily as easy as it looks right now based off the standings because of their schedule this specific weekend.
Okay, how about some actual analysis? Golden Guardians does things in game, right? They don't actually just like do nothing, which is what a lot of teams do. Like Golden Guardians will actually try and play early game. Like they will play like aggressive compositions. Like they will use mid jungle prio to dive side lanes, and like they will try and win the game. And I think that they just beat CLG and they just beat FlyQuest. So I think that they will. I could expect them to continue to beat both of those teams. And I don't think Golden Guardians are that bad. Like I know in our game against them specifically, like from what my players said, like at least like they'll fight, right? And like like they don't always fight that well, but they they have more to them than I think a lot of people see from the outside, and I think that Golden Guardians will make playoffs. I don't think, yeah, I think they're gonna make playoffs. That's my hot take. I would be more surprised if they didn't, I guess.
I'm with you. They should have beat you guys after the Braum engages, the engages onto Braum. I thought that they were coming back in the game. I thought Blaze All was
Yeah.
playing decent, you know,
Yeah.
and like they had won a couple fights in a row, and then I mean,
Yeah.
Stixxay even just tweeted like an hour ago,
Yeah.
memeing himself for walking up to Ignar.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it was their game to win, right? Like I think that we were in a winning position that game clearly up until like 6 or 7 minutes, and then we didn't understand how to transfer our advantage across the map and actually like slam the game home. And we made a mistake, and then from there on, like I think GG actually had a lot of control in that game. We weren't really able to find much of a foothold. Some of that was Nocturne, and also a lot of that was our failure to play mid game correctly. Like we should have taken top T1 at I think like 1740. Top T1 should have fallen, and there was like I think we had 2 more windows to take top T1 if we transfer pressure correctly at like 22 and 25 minutes, and we didn't take top T1 until like 30 minutes in that game. So just overall, I think it was a poor game from us compared to like our previous 2 games, and also like not to discredit Golden Guardians, like I said before, I actually think they did a lot of things right in that game. And I'd be surprised if they lost to CLG and FlyQuest. I think I believe in them. I think they can do it.
I'm with you. I think I mean FlyQuest is just kind of depressing to watch right now. I actually feel like the best way for FlyQuest to make playoffs is probably put in their academy roster, because they're like right now they just like you're saying about making plays and stuff. Like FlyQuest just feels so lifeless, and like whenever they do make their play, it's like it almost always feels like this desperation, like well why not kind of play. And CLG, I mean I don't. This is gonna sound pretty flamey, but like okay, minus that 3-0 week where they pulled out this comp. They look pretty bad. And I know you can't just eliminate wins, you know, like, but
yeah, I mean they
it's
beat
like-
us. They beat us with the freaking bongos. So
yeah, they bongoed you, they bongoed
Bronze
100
Zodiac.
Thieves and stuff, but they're 4-11 for in summer. FlyQuest is 3-12, and Golden Guardians is 5-10. And like I said, if you want to call that shit cheese, you know, Counter Logic Gaming only has 1 non-cheesy win. You could argue if you wanted to be like pessimistic about it.
in the second
So-
round open, yeah.
I get
yeah,
nobody
in
cares
Yeah.
Summer.
about this, but I do not think those numbers you just quoted for summer record will probably look different after this weekend. I mean, they will 100% look different, but like I'm just saying,
Well,
like
FlyQuest and CLG play, so of course one of them has to win.
Right.
But I feel like the point that we're making is that Golden Guardians will beat other teams other than the 2 teams like directly above them, whereas FlyQuest
Yeah.
and CLG will not.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
So
Like,
it
I don't
shouldn't.
think-
So you guys think it's
we'll see
not a
how
hot take
consistent
even that
it is.
Golden Guardians goes to playoffs?
No, that's a reasonable take. That's a cold
I-
take.
I feel like they can
Dang.
beat Dig. I feel like they can beat Immortals if
Yeah.
those teams aren't playing well. They all
Depends
if they're
for
not
me.
playing well.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure,
maybe-
sure. Yeah, if they low roll, then yeah, for sure.
Low roll.
He's been with Jizuke too long.
Yeah,
Everything's
I mean, these are fucking best of ones, guys. It's not like we're playing our best game every game. Like
Yeah.
if you win, you're better. Like
I know.
it's
I
both
just
best
love
one,
the
like-
the reference. It's
mean-
all that Artemis just thinks of this as like an RPG he's playing with
I'm
his
just-
characters.
This
He's
is
like,
me.
yeah, my players they have a lot of variance. I mean, we can hit 20 sometime, but like,
when you have the
Sometimes we roll a
dagger,
lot of
which
keys.
hits quickly with low variance, or you have the axe.
yeah.
Yeah.
Jizuke, you know, like some of these players are the axe.
Yeah.
Okay, I will go out and say I don't think Golden Guardians is making it to playoffs. I guess I have the hot take, which is they're not going to go. Something will happen on CLG or FlyQuest or Golden Guardians that will curse them, because I think they're going to be at a bigger deficit after this weekend, and I don't know, and I think CLG or FlyQuest will pick up enough games that like they'll be able to maintain the difference enough for
Which
it.
one?
What's that? Which one?
Which one of CLG
Caller?
and FlyQuest?
JNT here challenging me for this.
You just got to pick one.
I think FlyQuest is more of a free fall, so I think it's FlyQuest and Golden Guardians that don't go on. CLG somehow sneaks in, because that's like the classic CLG. The classic CLG is they'll have like a 3-0 weekend in their final week or something like that, which will sneak them in, and people will be like, "Oh, they've got it," and then they'll get 3-0'd in their first best of 5 in playoffs. So that's the narrative that's the script that I'm predicting. I've seen this play out before. Raz has clipped and bookmarked this, so I'm excited for when it ends up on his Twitter. when Golden Guardians
JNT's
was going.
pick one. Just pick one.
Hey, JNT, thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we take a quick break?
No, that's good. Thanks for having me.
You sound so defeated, my friend.
No, I was surprised to hear that, both Travis and Artemis thought that wasn't a hot take per se.
You mean Mark?
Because I think
Artemis.
Oh, who did I say? Oh, yeah, I said Travis. Yeah, I don't know. I thought, like you kind of mentioned, I think they do have like more work to do. They're still one win behind, and they do still have to, for sure, beat FlyQuest CLG, and then most likely will have to take a game or two off of like a Dignitas or an Immortals, because it's going to be very difficult for them to take a game off any of the top 5 right now. So I think it's possible, and I think, based off what we've seen so far, it's the most likely outcome.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, JNT, for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
All right. Taking a quick break to talk about Game Fuel. By the way, thank you to everyone who took up the challenge that I had against Courage last week. If you are ordering your Courageous Sherbet flavors, which I actually do, they still have. I believe they still have some of the 0-calorie ones, but I don't know if they have the regular flavor. But go check it out. You can go to gamefuel.com. In fact, I'll just pull it up. Gamefuel.com/Travis and use code Travis to save on your. Actually, it looks like they still have some of the Courageous Sherbet. Okay, so you can still. My guess is the stuff is going to sell out because it sold out, I think, in their first announcement. They were able to bring it back. So go check it out on their site. Use code Travis when you check out, and then tweet at them. If you're getting your shipment soon, because maybe you ordered it last week, this is my reminder to please tweet at GameFuel and let them know that on behalf of the best-looking and most athletic partner they have, Travis Gafford, you purchased the wonderful Courageous Sherbet, and let them know so that they feel incentivized to make sure that I get my own flavor in the future. That's the dream. But thanks everyone who did that. And for those of you that missed it, it's a special flavor they have right now in partnership with Courage. So if you've tried Game Fuel in the past, maybe give it a try. And actually, I'm out now of the flavor because I had it. It was all they sent me some, and I can't even get it now. So I might buy some with code Travis. Anyway, thanks so much to Game Fuel for sponsoring the show. We love you. Use code Travis. Use the link in the description if you're watching on YouTube, and I will go ahead and pop it into the Twitch chat as well right now. Thanks, everyone, for your support. Thank you to Game Fuel for sponsoring the show. All right, Mark, you want to go grab one of our 2 final callers here? We're in the past 20 minutes of the show. All right, Mark just ran off to grab them. Nordified, thank you for the resub. It's Kyler, EPH, JDubs 404. I believe I got and the Real Divert, Indigo Fog, and Team Corgi Mid. Team Corgi Mid, I haven't seen you in a while, but I always recognize your name. Thank you for the 18 months. You're fantastic. Okay. Oh boy. TomShoe himself here, noted.
It's restrained tonight. It's a restrained TomShoe.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's very quiet today. I was gonna come in here all hype and give everyone their bi-weekly dose, but it's already 11:40. I'm tired. I gotta go to work tomorrow. So.
Okay. Well, what is your short take tonight?
Yeah, sure. So I remember earlier in the call, Artemis was sort of talking about how well Danny was doing, sort of acclimating to the LCS, and I would generally agree that he's been doing really well and showing some of the mechanics that we like to see out of those those young players and the hands that we want. I'm more interested in trying to understand the process that goes into taking someone like Danny out of like a much lower competitive level like amateur and immediately plucking them into LCS. And I know there's a lot of adjustment that kind of needs to go on, and we've often seen that taking someone from not academy or who hasn't been crushing academy and plucking them right into LCS and expecting them to kind of go out there and smurf has sometimes not had the best results in Golden Gardens. But it seems like you guys have managed to pull it off pretty well, and I kind of want to hear more about how that's kind of worked out over the last couple
TomShoe heavily motivated right now to find out how you bring a player in from development that you believe in and make them perform on stage for non-personal reasons. So this is totally a Danny take.
It doesn't want to leak it to Dignitas. No,
it's very easy to come on stage and choke, but he's done well. I will be honest.
Okay, so Artemis, what do you think?
It was a big project for Evil Geniuses in the offseason to prepare to bring a true rookie, 17 years old, just graduating high school, into LCS. So much planning and conversation was involved in this, and I think that we're executing reasonably well. Personally, I've been really pleased with Danny inside and out of game. I think he's doing great. Like, a lot of what I was focusing on in the beginning of the season was just making sure that he was acclimating to life in Los Angeles, because for him, he's a 17-year-old kid who was just doing high school in quarantine, like with his family, right? So he's going from really only interacting with his Oregon. He's from Oregon, I believe. Pacific Northwest. Washington? Maybe Washington? Okay, don't quote me. I think Washington now. Anyway, regardless of that, like, it's a huge transition for somebody to go from being in high school online, only living with family inside of a pandemic, and moving to Los Angeles and now living on your own in your own apartment, going to work every day, like having to socialize with people, having to be a productive member in a work environment, and like understanding like how to navigate this process. And I think that for Dan, like, that was definitely something that was an adjustment for him, and it's something that he's continuing to get better at every day, and he's getting better quickly, and which is really cool to watch. Like, it's super cool for me to watch Dan and just like interact with his teammates in practice, in game, out of game. Like, super pleased with how he's adjusting. And also just shout out to Danny. He's just such a resilient kid. Like, what a hard thing to do. Like, when I was 17, like, I don't think that I would have done nearly as good a job as Dan. Like, I was a mess at 17. I'll own that. But Dan has done incredibly well in Los Angeles. He's doing very well in practice. And as far as like on stage performance, I think that the reason that Danny can perform so well is because we don't ask him to do too much. Like, we just ask him to do his job. And he understands what his job is in this roster, and we have really, really good pieces around him that support him in game from start to finish. In lane, mid game, late game, like, he can trust his teammates that they have his back. Like, we are looking out for Dan, and we are like trying to like make sure that Dan can perform to his best, and we're getting we're getting returns on that investment. Like, we're there for Dan, and he is absolutely demolishing team fights and doing some pretty cool stuff. Like, I thought it was super cool that he had like his first like really like clippable highlight play. I think it was in our Saturday game where he did the ult flash, auto gale force cancel, auto Q, and just one shot the Varus. Like, that's fun for me to watch as just like a Dan fan, right? And he was so low key about it. He's just like that's so basic to Dan. Like, he's such a mechanical fighter. Like, the way he team fights is really, really nice, and I think that we just try and play to his strengths. He's got a lot of work to do. I'll be the first to say that. He's still got a lot of work to do. I think that there are big holes in his game for sure, which is natural because he's only been playing competitive League of Legends for like a year and a half. Like, he started in amateur less than 2 years ago. Like, never played competitive League of Legends before 2 years ago, and now he's on the LCS stage and he's looking like one of the best AD carries in the league. Like, he needs to stay humble. Like I said, like, he's got a lot to work on still, but when we ask him to do his job, he does that and he executes. So overall, TLDR, I'm so happy with Dan, and just really impressed with him. Like, what a well-adjusted young man who's just crushing it in LCS.
Mark, oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, so I had to follow up a little bit about the you talk about like, oh, we had to do a lot of work to get him ready and stuff. It feels like in North America, a 17-year-old coming on and joining a team and doing decently is like not that common. It does happen,
almost
but
unheard of.
Yeah,
like,
it's generally
was the last one.
Yeah, I mean, Spica, I think he was 18 when he subbed in, but that was a disaster situation. He might have been 19, but like, teenagers 17 to 19 in the LCS joining is not very common, but around the world in LPL and LCK, it's not that unheard of. So for North America, do you think that there's something where there's just a dearth of these players that like the orgs are doing a good job finding them, but there aren't that many? Do you think it's that they can't find them, or do you think it's that they do find them but fail in preparing them when you're talking about these sorts of like hurdles that you had to make sure that he could clear?
Yeah, I don't know what it's like for other teams. I do think that there's talent in NA for sure. Dan's an example of that. We have several examples of that inside Evil Geniuses, which we're very proud of. But I think that when I said that there was a lot of work to be done, like to get ready, like a lot of that was work for us, like not for Dan. Like that was work for me. That was work for Peter, Nasser, Kelsey, Andrew, just so many people at EG like had to get educated, get in the right mindset, get prepared to help this young man adjust to a completely alien environment and to new life, and not only help him adjust, but help him succeed fast, because there's damage that's done to a player if they come in and they have a bad performance. Even if that's unfairly so, there is damage. Like if a rookie comes in, like Niles is a great example. Like Niles, he was not ready for LCS, and he was brought in and did not perform well. And I think that he definitely suffered for that as far as community perception goes. And I'm actually just shout out to Golden Guardians for not just kicking him to the curb and still working with him and developing him and taking their time with him. I think that's commendable, because I think that in other cases he might have just been cut, which would have been tragedy, because I do think that he has talent. And yeah, I think that there's just so much work to be done for an organization to help somebody transition, but also, it is a little bit of luck of the draw, because, like I said, so much of this credit has to go to Dan himself. It's so difficult to do what he did. I don't think I would have done as well as he's done at 17. I don't think many of us would have done as well as he's done at 17, coming into a new environment and performing a professional sport at an elite level. It's ludicrous when you actually kind of step back and examine it for what it is. It's super, super impressive. So all the credit should go to Dan.
Yeah,
Well-
and that also. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead,
here we
Tom.
go. Yeah, that also raises a bit of a follow-up question, because not only you had to go through the the whole process of bringing him over here, but I remember during the initial announcement that Danny was coming to the LCS, and I think during the initial rollout, something I think Peter Dunn said something that we wouldn't have been comfortable making this decision if we didn't have the amount of data on Danny that he did. And that
Yeah.
kind of leads into my question here is what made you essentially, comfortable enough to make this kind of decision, bringing this kid to the LCS? Because I know it's it's a big risk. You're essentially,
Yeah.
dropping your current LCS AD carry and
Yeah.
taking someone who's almost completely unproven onto the big stage.
So many push and pull factors for that decision, and I don't know if I can really get into them all. But I think that if you kind of zoom out for a second and think about the context of Evil Geniuses this year and the context of Evil Geniuses next year and the context of our spring performance, that at a high level will give you some guidance. But then as far as Dan specifically, we have really good scouts at Evil Geniuses. Nasser is our head scout. He does that full time. He's excellent. But also as coaches, I think that we have good scouts on our staff, our coaching staff as well. And it was apparent to us that this kid is a naturally gifted player, and he's a better team fighter than LCS AD carries. It was obvious just watching him play. So we knew that he would struggle in other areas, but we were confident that if we could get his mindset correct for performance, as long as those externalities were taken care of and he could perform at his level, even if he didn't know the intricacies of laning at a pro level, even if he didn't understand a lot of early pressure-based macro, we can teach him these things. These things will take time, but right off the bat, we knew what we were getting, and we were getting a sharp weapon. Dan is an exceptional team fighter, and that is really a strength that we've asked him to lean into, and we've asked him to do his job and carry games, and he's done that. So we're super pleased with him.
All right, and I know Travis probably wants to move on, but I have one last follow-up question.
Wait, no questions. Because we have time. I will give you 60 seconds, and then I will give Artemis 60. Actually, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to ask, and then I'll give Artemis 60 seconds to answer. Starting now.
Okay, yeah, so this is just more so talking about how oftentimes we kind of have the perception that a lot of AD carries kind of play right-click roles. And bringing Danny from the LC or from amateur to LCS, do you think him being an AD carry would make that transition easier? Essentially, what I'm trying to get at is that say if you had to import from or have someone come
5
in
seconds.
from a different role, top or jungle or mid or support, would that be more difficult as opposed to this current role?
Artemis,
Yes,
60 seconds.
absolutely. 60 seconds. Tell me when I've used my time. But I think top is the worst to bring a rookie into. Top lane in LCS is stacked. you have so many people with like so much international experience, so years and years of international experience that they understand every matchup to its fine details. And you're just going to get punished over and over and over again until you learn. And like Revenge went through some really serious growing pains in LCS, and like now he's starting to really get it. And like now like Revenge can actually lane, and like we're seeing pretty strong performances from Revenge, and that's why Immortals like is having a strong resurgence, because he's actually not getting exploited, and he's a pretty talented kid, I think. So yeah, I think the AD carry is much easier than top lane, and I think that it is one of the best roles to bring somebody into, because just naturally you're paired with somebody already, and Ignar is a fantastic person to pair Dan with and teaches Dan a lot.
Very good.
Or
Hey,
to your
thanks so
top
much,
laner.
TomShoe, for the call. Anything you want to shout out?
All right. Can I? All right. First of all, I need everyone just to shut up for a second. Y'all hear that? That's the absolute silence of the fucking Yasui haters after this 2-1 weekend. Did you actually see some of those performances yesterday? And people were actually like shitting on me on the Reddit thread, going through like, oh, you suck.
I'm hovering the
look
kick,
at
tell
that!
me
You
when.
absolutely got
Thanks,
fucking
TomShoe,
silenced.
for the
Let's
call.
fucking.
Mark, was
Love that.
was
Love that.
Yasui as good as TomShoe believes he was this past weekend?
So I was also reading that Reddit thread, and it was funny. I would say it's actually somewhere in the middle. Like he had one of his better weekends. Like that Silas game was decent for part of it, but then there was also part where I wonder if he could have done more. I think he easily could have. I don't know.
I mean, mid lane's not like top lane. Not the place for a rookie to bring in without problems. So he's got some growing pains to work through. I think if you were to ask a LCS mid laner what they thought of Yasui, they would probably tell you something different than what TomShoe would tell you.
We did actually. His name is Jensen, and he
Political way to put it.
Yeah, Jensen. We did ask Jensen, and Jensen did say something different than what TomShoe said.
Yeah, I'm sure he did.
All right, Mark, you want to grab our final caller?
Yep.
Okay. The Real Diver, thank you for the 5 months. Indigo Fog, Team Corgi Med. Oh, and then Rice. Rice gifted a sub. Thank you, everyone. Bradonstar is here, or Bradonstar. Is that it? Bradonstar?
Yeah, Bradonstar.
Bradonstar. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Birmingham, Alabama.
Birmingham, Alabama. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So my take is basically there's been more roster changes in the middle of this split or right before than usual. And I feel like orgs have done a really bad job communicating that with fans in the community. Zavin out, Alfari out, Dardak out, and we never really heard anything about them for the most part. I think the LCS should implement required player statements from players who are affected by roster changes.
Required player statements? Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, so like I don't think it has to be anything too extreme. Like it could be a tweet, it could be some press conference. I don't know. I just think the orgs haven't done a great job. Wait, go ahead. Say that again.
Like a Chipotle tweet, would that do it for you?
Yeah, Chipotle tweet does. I just don't think it hits the mark. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like they could do a better job.
I feel like more players should do the Chipotle tweet. Actually, that was the best.
See, I would be okay with that too.
Okay. Here's the problem. Bradonstar, you are a pro player who is being paid $750,000 a year to play for a team, and you are either sucking or you are being a jerk in the eyes of your teammates or something. I don't know, but there's some reason why your team is going to bench you, and then you are required to put out a tweet, and you know that like contractually you can be fined by your org for saying something that is non-complimentary to the team or the org. I mean, I think a lot of people just don't realize that that's like a thing. And you want to be back on the team, and you don't want to be like dropped by the org in the middle of summer because maybe it's like difficult to get on another team or something like that. Like, what do you put into that statement in that moment? Because I feel like you're looking for a statement where like somebody comes out and is like, hey, I just got benched, and like I think it's bullshit and blah. But I just feel like it's unlikely that a player is ever going to do something like that.
Sure. So I totally get where you're coming from, but I feel like I have a good response. So let's say, and I don't think the LCS has particularly like a LeBron James caliber player, but let's say you're LeBron James and you get benched, and this, as you said $750,000 salary. If you get benched, people are gonna want to know why you got benched, and they're gonna expect you to say something. So let's say you're LeBron James, you get benched, and you don't say anything for a month. I'm referencing like Sven here, I guess. People are still going to want to hear something, and you can say something, especially if you're making $750,000 a year. You can afford to take like a slap on the wrist fine. I don't know. That's just my take, I guess.
These guys won't even like self-fund the Players Association. They are not interested in like they don't like the idea of spending money, including on a fine. I guess. Mark, I'm actually kind of curious. In traditional sports, like, do the players ever speak out if they end up, I don't know, benched or whatever? I get that benchings in traditional sports are not the way they are in esports, because sometimes you just don't get played for a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, like, if some star player did end up on the bench for a while, do they ever say anything?
I mean, there's like Antonio Brown, right? Like he said a lot. I mean, like you do have players who say things. Well, I don't know, Mark. Can you think of other good examples?
Not off the top of my head, but I feel like there's two kinds of players.
I think it happens often, but yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like it does happen often, because a lot of times players can't avoid a microphone being shoved in their face.
Yeah.
Where I feel like it's easier in esports to just go silent, like press conferences, media days. These kinds of things are just like more rabid. I mean, like they even have fucking paparazzi, like depending on how big you are.
Yeah,
I should have found Sven somewhere in LA and demanded.
Why didn't you actually? Probably not that hard.
Yeah. I mean, this Jerry in chat is making a great point. Like Aaron Rodgers straight up like refusing to play, like because he wants to be traded. Like if somebody did that at LCS, I'm not saying it never happened, but like if the public found out that a player did that in LCS, like it would be bananas. But like people do that stuff in traditional sports, and people are just like, they stick it in there. And
I was gonna say, there's also like someone says Kawhi didn't say anything. I mean, like there are some players who are like, but Kawhi's also a really quiet guy and really team first, and like he's just not the type of player who would ever speak out. So like you have both spectrums, but I feel like it's a much bigger media circus in traditional sports that makes it harder to not get something out of someone, whereas it's pretty easy like to button down the hatches in esports.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that is the teams control access to the players in esports in a way that, to my understanding, they don't necessarily in traditional sports, because I think in traditional sports, like players, okay, I apologize, let's step back. This is a bit of me, like I'm not an expert on this stuff, but the sense I get is that like a lot of players, especially popular players in traditional sports, have their own agents and their own PR people and their own stuff, and so like they are not as like under the wing. Like if a media person wants to go reach out and do an interview with a player, that doesn't, to my understanding, always run through a team, and the way that does in esports, teams get very upset if I go ask a player for an interview and then we conduct an interview without the team ever knowing, and that, to my understanding, that is not something that with the way that it works in traditional sports, but I will admit my ignorance on this, because I'm not an expert on traditional sports media stuff. So I think yeah, it is a very different situation. I don't know. Go ahead, Bradonstar.
I was gonna say, so for the caller's sake about the players having to put out a statement, I mean, like I generically like the idea. I mean, that way you can at least hear from the player when it happens. I mean, like I think you'd have to really workshop it, because otherwise it's going to just turn into like generic PR fest, and like people are going to find like the copy paste thing that they're all going to do. And even then, like it feels like that already happens a little bit. Like so many of the things are like, we're rewarding this player and giving them a chance. And like, we already talked about this a bunch of times, but a lot of that feels like BS. So I don't know. I feel like the idea is okay. It wouldn't hurt, I would say, but I feel like it wouldn't ultimately get the desired result.
Well, I guess we'll see how things unfold. I don't, unless the agents and the Players Association can do something to kind of like break out the players from the team dynamic, then I think it's going to be really hard to see something like this happen. And I can't imagine, like, Riot is so beholden to the teams on this type of stuff that I can't imagine them doing something that would like upset the teams when it comes to helping the players get like voices to like trounce them. I also like the vibe I get on the Riot side too is that Riot probably doesn't like that type of stuff, or they think it's like bad for the league or whatever. So Bradonstar, thank you for the call. Is there anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you taking my take. Long time listener, first time caller. Just wanted to throw that out there because I feel like the radio silence is kind of bad. But I just want to shout out my friends Dylan and Wonky. We also listen to the show together. So y'all have a good night.
Thank
That's
you, Braden, for the
Thanks, man.
call. Really appreciate it.
Y'all take it easy.
All right. That is
I will
the-
say,
oh, go ahead.
Travis,
Yes.
that we definitely we're down with Spice. I can't speak for all the way up the food chain, but at least the people I work with directly.
It's gotta be
players
good
wanna
for.
talk.
It's
Yeah,
gotta be good,
sorry.
right?
I
Yeah,
I get the
you players talk
broadcast.
shit. We got stuff to
Yes.
say.
I get the broadcast, and like you and your dive colleagues and all that would like to be able to talk about that stuff. I get the feeling that from a league ops side, I doubt that they appreciate the drama as much, because I feel like they think it's like a reputational hit. Like it certainly seems like the import rule conversation was not something that they appreciated. But maybe you're right. Maybe these things are only stuff that transcends the player dynamic that they don't like. Very good. Well, hey, Mark, that's the show. So before we get to Artemis, what do you want to shout out? What do you want to promote?
Want to give a second shout out to any doctors who know why I would be feeling an icy coldness in my stomach/abdomen region that seems to move around a little bit. Also a little bit of pain. Doesn't feel like I a regular, like, ooh, I'm sore from working out. So, anyone want to let me know what's wrong with me? It sounds great.
Do you not have insurance?
I do.
Okay.
I'm on the Kaiser Permanente catastrophic plan, which I'm
Go
pretty
to
sure
the
is like
doctor, man. You're bleeding
you're
in your
gonna-
abdomen. You're gonna die tonight in your sleep. Go to the doctor. Like, what do you want me to
I
say?
feel pretty good. It's been a day and a half. It's been
What's
like
your
2
blood
days.
pressure? You should get a
couldn't
blood
tell
pressure
you.
cuff, and as soon as that drops, you go to the ER.
I'm feeling great. I feel like I could run a mile right now.
Well, for me, I just, just in case, if anybody ever is interested in being a temporary co-host for a couple of weeks, if mine ever is out of commission and is unable to perform his co-hosting duties, please let me know. Maybe we'll get TomShoe on, because I know that he's, he can do the whole show by himself. Artemis, what do you want to plug? What do you want to shout out?
Well, first, thanks for having me on, Mark and Travis. It was a good time. Thanks
Yeah,
for the
thank you.
callers
It's been a
for calling in. Yeah, it has been a bit. Always happy to be on Hotline League. Always happy to talk LCS. It was fun to talk draft a little bit too. So thanks. Only shout out I have is for my team. Shout out my players: Impact, Svenskeren, Contracts, Jizuke, Danny, and Ignar. All these guys are exceptionally talented, exceptionally hardworking, and just really kind, awesome people. Super grateful that I can work with them every day. So shout out to you guys, and then shout out to my staff too. Peter, Turtle, Mash, Nasser. You guys know who you are. So shout out to people at EG. Let's keep crushing it.
Very good. Well, it's that time of the night where Mark is using Twitch chat to talk about his stool. So I guess we need to wrap
this up so I can talk to him some more.
We need to wrap this up. If you are watching live, stick around, because I'm gonna I have a whole bunch of stuff, including what I think is like a half-hour long Spica interview that I might air on. I could be coerced to air early on stream. But if you are watching this on YouTube or on Spotify or whatever, go check. I'm dropping a ton of crazy stuff. So I have something with the LEC commissioner talking about the Schalke sale. I have the Spica interview. I have tomorrow on Rift Reaction, Emily and I are speaking to, which is available on Spotify. Emily and I are having Ender on as a guest co-host, so we're going to talk about some LEC stuff there. And then I'm going to do an interview with him afterwards. So that'll be up too. So there's just a lot going on at Travis Gafford Industries right now. So thanks. Oh, and Run It will be returning this week. We had a week off because I was working on that survey video, which I'd love to have more people take a look at. So, but there's just a lot of content coming down the pipeline right now. So thanks to everyone for tuning in. This has been, and thank you to Artemis for being here as well. It's been Hotline League episode 180.